Fantastic.
So yeah,
Oh my
and it's been, guys, this has been 8 years of work,
Congratulations.
8 years of work to do this. I mean, so yeah, anyhow.
Let's back into this
That's
idea.
huge.
Well, you know, this is a huge number. This isn't 12, which we thought we may get into. We doubled what expectations that I thought you had to get to 24. I'm almost speechless because it just changes the game flow of people and regulations and whatnot. For those people who are creating wrap notes, creating owner finance notes, what did they have to do before? And what do they have to do after this bill hopefully passes and goes through? What does it change for those investors?
Okay, great question. So let me give you some history. Before the housing meltdown and before the Bush administration signed the SAFE Act into law, there was no limitation, there was no federal or state regulation on seller finance transactions, on the number, okay? SAFE Act took it from unlimited down to 5. But that wasn't good enough. The progressives wanted to take that 5 and turn it to a misshapen 3. Was said, oh, well, you can only do 3 in 12 months, but the first one you can do this way, and the other 2 you got to do that way, and blah, 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 blah. So anyhow, it was kind of an eerie moment. I was having a meeting with Congresswoman Gwen Moore out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in Barney Frank's old office, talking about this bill and why it was written the way it was. It was kind of a weird moment, but anyhow. And she reminded me, she says, you know, this used to be Congressman Frank's office. And I'm like, okay, appreciate that. But still, let's talk about you supporting this bill, because this really matters to inner city buyers. This really matters to urban buyers that the banks, I mean, let's face it, Dodd-Frank has been the greatest discriminatory redlining tool that we have ever seen since the Emancipation Proclamation was enacted.
If you can do in 30 seconds, what was Dodd-Frank for those people who we've run into? A lot of people, me, Nathan, in the last 6-7 months who are creating 80 loans with a checkbook at a local diner, signing it off and going, here, we're going to make a deal with you. They have a mortgage and note, and they have an owner finance. I know they have an owner occupied member going in, and they've created tens and hundreds in loans. And people watching this feed right now who are trying to get it through. This is what people were doing in owner occupied properties.
And either they never heard of Dodd-Frank or they heard about it and didn't care.
So,
Okay, well, okay, so we can't turn back time. They've already
No.
done it. So,
Yes.
okay. So let's talk about where we are and what to do. Dodd-Frank is part of the massive financial regulatory stuff shoved down the throats of regional banks, small banks, private capital holders, all for the benefit of the large, too big to fail banks. It was shoved down our throats as a result of the housing meltdown and financial crisis of 7 through 12. It was it's a sacrosanct piece of legislation in the eyes of the Democrats, because it was enacted during the Obama administration. And it has been a terrible destroyer of private capital. Now, what we want to do is we want to take the restrictions in Dodd-Frank and we want to lift the volume restriction without changing any of the consumer protections. And I want to be very clear about this. If you are a predator, a financial predator, where you do what I call yo-yo loans on yo-yo houses, put it out there knowing you're going to get it back, put it out there knowing you're going to get it back, and in the meantime you're just grabbing people's down payments and deposits and so on, and you're just basically stealing from them. I have a simple request of you. Get out. Quit. Beat it. Okay? That is what gives our industry such a bad name.
Yeah.
Instead, I want you to focus on doing quality deals. And let's just get into some of the elements of a quality deal, and then you guys direct me where we need to go.
Yeah.
Okay. you need to, and this is some of the bantering and feedback I took back from CFPB, where they were pushing hard and I pushed back hard and so on. When you're doing a seller finance deal, if you want to really do this thing right, to where I feel like you've got a note that has got much value, that's got more value on the secondary market than otherwise, here's some of the stuff I want you to do. I want you to have an independent opinion of value of the collateral, a BPO or an appraisal. I want you to have an independent property inspection report. What's the condition of the property at the time of the closing? Let's make sure we're selling good stuff and not a bunch of crap, okay? Those are things that are important. Let's use a standardized format for our notes and mortgages. Something standardized where we can look at it quickly and we can see who's the maker, who's making the payment, when's the payment due, how much is the payment, what's the interest rate, what's going on with this. Let's do something standardized and simplified. Okay, let's make sure in addition to that, that we do not self-service these things. Let's board these things with a licensed servicer. When I say licensed, I mean licensed in the state wherein the property is located and where the payor is residing, okay? So that they can collect the payments, so that they can send out the appropriate notices, so that they can do the correct communications under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and under RESPA and under TILA and so on. And so that most importantly, they can accurately account for the money, because they've got a great software program that based on the day they get the money, they know how to put it into the amortization calculation. They know how much is going to then principal, how much goes to interest, how much is then escrowed for taxes and insurance. So most mom and pops that create them at the diner with their own handwritten stuff, Dave, you know this, Nathan, you know this, they can't do that.
No.
And then they can report it to the credit bureau reporting agencies. Okay.
So for those people who we want to make sure that we're focusing on those people who are doing this incorrectly, and for the no buyers to understand what they should be doing, when they are creating these notes with a checkbook and saying, hey, listen, if you have enough money in the bank to put down payment on there, and I'm going to collect it and I'm going to load it, which we've seen with apartments.com, which is a rental site, to track these payments, and it's free and easy and clear. We all would want them to do it correctly, but why? Is there a legal ramification, or what could happen to them if they don't do this correctly?
Okay, there are two ramifications. Number one, they're leaving money on the table. Hopefully I got their attention with that, okay? Because most of them are cheap and greedy, okay? And I don't mean to offend anybody, but that's how most people are. You're cheap and greedy. So folks, you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you the other thing. You're preventing the whole portfolio from being ripped away from you by an angry, aggressive trial lawyer at Morgan & Morgan, or some overeager enforcement agency officer from CFPB or the Federal Trade Commission or somewhere else, because you didn't comply with Dodd-Frank. Because we've not even talked about the most essential component to these deals. And here it comes. Folks, if you're going to originate any sort of seller financing, I don't care if you only do one deal a year. Most seller financiers do 2 deals or less a year. Okay, I've pulled the data. It's amazing what's out there. You must document. Hear that word? Document. Which means you've got to collect some written hard copy information and keep it regarding the maker, borrower, buyer's ability to pay. Which means you have to underwrite what their financial situation is. What do they make? What's it going to cost them? What's this mortgage payment, a percentage of their income?